Ever get the feeling you should know more about, like, the Amazon rainforest?
Yeah,
Like, we all know it's important, but past lungs of the planet, it all gets kind of fuzzy, you know?
totally. It's easy to oversimplify it.
Exactly. But luckily for us, that's what this deep dive is all about, going from fuzzy to fascinating, and we've got a whole stack of articles and research right here ready to unpack.
I love it. Yeah. The Amazon is so often, like you said,
Yeah.
simplified.
Yeah.
And while it's absolutely vital, there's this whole other layer of complexity. There are a whole ecosystem, different cultures, all living within it, and very real challenges that it faces that just don't get enough attention.
Totally. And just to start, we're talking huge EE here. I mean, spanning across 9 countries, kind of huge.
They're massive.
But one of these articles mentioned that Brazil's got a good chunk of it, like over 60%.
Yeah, Brazil definitely holds the, what do they call it, the lion's share.
Lion's share, exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, what happens over there in their politics has a direct impact on what happens to the rainforest.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. What happens in Brazil is going to have ripple effects throughout the whole thing. But, and this is important too, Peru actually plays a really big role as well.
Right.
They've got these massive areas that are pretty much untouched,
Mm.
which obviously presents a lot of unique opportunities. But then, of course, there's always a flip side.
Right. There are always risks that come with that.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of massive, it's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. One of the articles said that like 10% of all the plant species we know about on Earth are found in the Amazon.
It's really incredible.
Jaguars, monkeys, all that. But honestly, what really got me were the insects. Like, the sheer diversity is unbelievable. They're basically the ones keeping the whole system running, right?
They are. It's so easy to get wowed by the big picture jaguars.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing, but those insects are the backbone. Pollination, decomposition, all of that. Those are the processes that keep everything else going.
It's a domino effect.
It is. You lose one piece and the whole thing's going to feel it.
For sure. And it's not just like some untouched wilderness out there. We're talking about people who have lived in the Amazon like for millennia.
Right. This is their home.
And the articles brought up a good point that these indigenous communities have generations worth of knowledge about this ecosystem. And honestly, that might be what we need more of right now.
Absolutely. It's not just crucial, it's irreplaceable at this point. They haven't just lived in the Amazon, they've thrived there. And they've seen the way things work over generations, what works long term, things we could only dream of understanding.
So we've covered some of the amazing stuff,
Right.
but it's not all sunshine and rainbows,
Yeah.
right? We got to talk about the not so fun stuff, the deforestation.
Yeah.
The articles mentioned it all, agriculture, logging, mining. But what really struck me was how connected those industries are to things we use every single day.
Yeah, I agree. It's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because it's that truth we don't always want to face. This global demand for things like beef, soybeans, palm oil, all of it, puts so much pressure on the Amazon.
Yeah, and it's tough, you know? What are we supposed to do? Just stop eating altogether?
Right. It's not about cutting things out entirely, but it is about being conscious about the choices we make. Being a more conscious consumer. For example, did you know that a huge percentage of soybeans grown in the Amazon actually end up going towards feeding livestock, not even directly feeding people?
Wow, did not know that.
Yeah, so that burger you had for lunch, it could potentially have a connection to deforestation, even if it's not immediately obvious.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
After reading through everything, it's hard not to feel kind of, I don't know, is there even hope with the Amazon? Thankfully, these articles did talk about some of the efforts being made to help protect it, things like designating protected areas, promoting sustainable practices, and maybe the most important one, working directly with these indigenous communities.
I think it's a step in the right direction. Protected areas are essential, but we also have to get to the root of the problem. Things like poverty and the lack of alternative options are pushing people to make these choices.
Right, they don't really have any other options.
Exactly. So we have to think about solutions that address both the needs of the people, A&D, the needs of the rainforest. It's tricky for sure, but it's possible.
One of the articles touched on sustainable development, and it mentioned things like sustainable forestry, ecotourism, and empowering local communities. It all sounds good on paper, but is it actually working?
It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Every approach comes with its own set of challenges, right? Take sustainable forestry, for example. It's a great idea in theory, but you need strict monitoring and enforcement to make sure everyone's playing by the rules. And then with ecotourism, while that has amazing potential, it needs to be implemented ethically. The benefits have to reach the local communities and not harm the environment.
So it's like walking a tightrope almost.
Kind of, yeah. It's about finding that sweet spot where people and the rainforest both benefit. There are no quick fixes, that's for sure, but it's super important for the long-term health of the Amazon.
Totally. And then, of course, on top of everything else, there's climate change. The articles all mentioned hotter temperatures, more droughts, increased wildfires, all things that are already threatening the Amazon. I feel like it's being attacked from every angle.
And what a lot of people don't realize is that it's not a one-way street. The Amazon isn't just being impacted by climate change, it actually plays a huge role in regulating the entire Earth's climate.
Wow, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, and when you have deforestation happening at such an alarming rate, not only does that release massive amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, but it throws that whole regulatory system off balance. And those consequences are going to be felt globally.
Wow. Well, this deep dive has definitely been an eye-opener. We covered a lot: jaguars, insects, deforestation, climate change. I think if there's one big takeaway here, it's that what happens to the Amazon rainforest really does impact all of us.
100%. And it goes beyond just being aware of what's happening. Every single choice we make, from the food we buy to the policies we support, it all has an impact. And that impact reaches all the way to the Amazon. So I guess the real question is, what kind of impact are you going to make?
That is the question.